I bet you didn't know that the Golden State Killer roamed free for decades, evading capture and leaving a trail of fear and devastation in his wake. His reign of terror spanned from the mid-1970s to the mid-1980s, a time when California was gripped by fear, until one wild twist of fate nailed him. But how did this elusive predator finally get caught? Picture this: California, 1970s to 1980s, a time of cultural revolution, but also a time of fear for many. A shadow lurks in the night, moving silently through the suburbs, always one step ahead of the authorities, striking terror into the hearts of innocent families. They would lock their doors and windows, but the fear remained, knowing that the Golden State Killer could strike at any moment. This shadow was none other than the Golden State Killer, Joseph James DeAngelo, a man who lived a double life hiding in plain sight. This guy wasn't just a monster, he was a master of disguise, blending into the fabric of everyday life. He was a master of disguise. He could be anyone, anywhere, at any time. By day, he was an ex-cop living a quiet suburban life, a man who knew the ins and outs of law enforcement, using that knowledge to stay one step ahead. But by night, he became a ruthless predator, a man who would stop at nothing to satisfy his dark urges. He committed at least 12 brutal murders and 45 horrifying rapes, each crime more shocking than the last, leaving a community in despair. And for decades, he was untouchable. The police were baffled, the cases went cold, and the victims were left without justice. Now here's where it gets wild. Despite the best efforts of law enforcement, DeAngelo remained a ghost, a phantom that haunted the memories of his victims and the nightmares of the community. Despite his heinous crimes, DeAngelo remained a ghost, slipping through the cracks of law enforcement. He was always just out of reach, a step ahead of those who sought to bring him to justice, slipping through the cracks of law enforcement. The frustration grew, but so did the determination to catch him. But in 2018, technology caught up with him. The advancements in DNA technology and the rise of genealogy websites provided a new avenue for investigation. Thanks to DNA and genealogy websites, the cops finally had their breakthrough. A tiny piece of genetic material, a clue that had been overlooked for decades, finally led them to their suspect. The cops finally had their breakthrough. The pieces of the puzzle began to fit together and the net closed in on DeAngelo. Imagine the shockwaves when an old man in a Sacramento suburb was arrested. Neighbors who had known him for years were stunned, unable to reconcile the quiet man they knew with the monster he truly was. In a Sacramento suburb was arrested. The news spread like wildfire, and the world watched as the Golden State Killer was finally unmasked. The Golden State Killer, unmasked after over 40 years. The relief was palpable, but so was the anger and sorrow for the lives he had destroyed. Justice, though delayed, was served. The courtroom was filled with the families of victims, finally seeing the man who had caused so much pain brought to justice. He now rots in prison, a fitting end for a man who caused so much suffering. His days of freedom are over, and he will spend the rest of his life behind bars, forever haunted by his own deeds. So, true crime aficionados, let this be a reminder that no matter how long it takes, justice will be served. Remember this: the wheels of justice may turn slowly, but they are relentless. They may take time, but they will eventually catch up with those who think they can escape, but they crush anything in their path. The story of the Golden State Killer is a testament to that truth.